All right, we got Rashod with us today. Thanks for joining us, Rashod. You were just saying offline this doctor that had no bedside manner. Tell us what he said to you and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I recently, I've always had a struggle with my weight and my health. I've always, not always, but more recently, I've typically put myself last and not first, especially as came to my health. And it all kind of caught up with me back in April of this year, um, where went to the doctor, just wasn't feeling well, and found out that I had 95% blockage in the LAD, which is called the Widowmaker artery. So at 44 years old, I had heart surgery. Um, and on the way out, the doctor, I think he thought he was saying something profound. Uh, and on the way out, he just, the post appointment or whatever said, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, you're very lucky." Why am I lucky? Well, most people don't survive this. And it just threw me into a tizzy. Um, I mean, I literally cried every day for 2, 3 months afterwards, trying to find out why did I survive? If most people don't survive this, why did I survive? Um, and I'm still not sure, what it is. I believe that 15 years ago when I started my company, I believe that was my purpose, was to start a company, be successful. Um, so I've done that. I've done that. Um, so now what are the next steps? Um, I don't believe that I survived in order to be a successful CEO. Um, Been there, done that. So the question is why, right? What did that set me up for in terms of my next purpose in my life? Um, and so I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to seek it and find it and understand it, and more importantly, to listen and implement it.
What's the current version of it, Rashod? If you had to sort of take a stab at your purpose today, what would you say it is?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm focused on my family. So it's to be, the best father I could be, the best son I could be, the best brother I could be. Um, I'm divorced, so kind of focusing a little more inward on myself to try to figure out, um, try to figure out what my personal life is going to look like moving forward. I've made a lot of personal sacrifices over the last 15 years, all in the name of the company and the business. And I'm not saying I regret it, but now it might be time to do something a little different. So right now, I just I'm focused on my family, my friends, myself. For the first time in years, I'm putting myself first. Lost 30 pounds in the last 4 months. I got another 30 pounds to lose in the next 4 months. To try to put myself and my health first, um, as I continue to seek what it is I'm supposed to be doing with this knowledge of how to grow a business to scale. By the end of this, we'll be $100 million a year business nationally. I know that. And considering I started it with an idea in my attic, you know, I've grown something to scale. So now that I've done that, what is the next step and what is the next purpose? And just I'm seeking it, Tom. I'm not real sure, what it is yet. It might be to teach, it might be to help others, to grow businesses. It might be to inspire people to get into my field. I'm just not sure.
Well, I appreciate your honesty there, and I think a lot of folks can really benefit from that because CEOs in particular. I know when I was one, you sometimes feel like you have to put on this bravado or this strong image, that we have to have all the answers. And I love that what you're saying is I'm wrestling with that. I'm wrestling with what am I still on this earth for? I almost lost my life at age 44. And I can't tell you how many CEOs that we work with and other leaders across the country who are 64 or 74, and they still haven't really figured that out.
Yeah.
So as you think about this journey over the last 15 years, from a addict to a multi-million dollar national organization working with a lot of large organizations, airports, schools, very impressive growth. What do you attribute the success as a leader?
Um, well, I mean, there's a book, the book that a lot of people like to talk about it is "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." But it's so very true. Um, who I was as a person and as a firm in the first 3 years of the firm, who I was in the next 5 years of the firm, who I've been, in the last 3 years of the firm, has been an evolution of Rashod. Um, and I couldn't be who I am today the first 3 years of the firm. It wouldn't have worked. I had to be where I was when I was there. So I think one of the things that you have to do in terms of um, success in running a business, especially long term, is um, understanding how and when to adapt, understanding how and when to change. I went from having a need to do it all to now having a need to find people to help me do it all. And that's a tough change. It's a tough change because no one will ever love the firm the way I love the firm. No one will ever have to sacrifice the way I've sacrificed for the firm. So it takes a level of trust that I had to grow into in order to get the right team and the right staff in order to take this to the next level. And quite frankly, we're still adapting. I mean, who we are today may look drastically different than who we are in 5 years from now. So I'm open to a lot of that change as we continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. And that's intellectually easy to understand. I think that whole idea a lot of CEOs know in their in their brains, but emotionally they're unable to do what you've done, which is to evolve as a leader and to let go and empower others. So for those leaders out there who are with you, they get it intellectually, but they can't do it. What would you say to them?
I have a daughter. Her name is Layla. And when she was a kid, one of her favorite movies was Frozen. And the key song, the staple song in there is "Let It Go." Let it go, Tom. The CEOs, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Trying to control it all, and trying to make sure that it's perfect, and trying to make sure it you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. And I know that's not here, right? That's all here. Um, I still have some problems where I might dig into the weeds on something and my team is like, dude, why do you care? You're never involved in the project, this much, but I'll go deep in the weeds on something and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And then I have to be reminded that, I think it was Steve Jobs that said, you don't hire good people in order to tell them what to do. Gotta let it go. Gotta let it go.
Yeah.
And I still
And
struggle with it, admittedly, but you gotta let it go.
well, and it sounds like you've got a team that's willing to challenge you, in a good way, in a productive way, to say, what's going on, Rashod? Why are you diving into the weeds on this one? So they're there to remind you of your bigger commitment, which is to let it go.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
you don't let it go haphazardly. You don't do it in a very irresponsible way. It took some time. I have some very good and qualified people that it took time. It took time to get to trust and know and nurture and coach and be coached my executive team in order to let it go. 3 years ago, when I first brought in some of these executives, you could have told me, Rashod, let it go, and I was like, whatever. It's not going to happen. Like, I don't even know who these people are. And it took some time to get there, but we got there, and we're still getting there. And you have to make sure that you have the right talent and the right people to do it. But when you do, and you finally decide to let it go, and then you realize that you've done a great job, A, identifying the team, B, supporting the team, and C, giving the team the leeway and power and responsibility to lead without you, it feels amazing when you let it go.
Yeah. And you've got some, obviously, we've had the pleasure of working with you and your executive team. You've got some wonderfully equally committed people to a much bigger purpose, that it goes beyond paycheck, goes beyond their ego, allows them to see the bigger picture and what you're out to accomplish. So talk a little bit about that. Talk about your 2025 vision.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I acquired an engineering firm, and I was having a discussion with someone, and I said, they looked at me and said, "You're probably one of the, top 10 largest Black-owned engineering firms in America." And I kind of scowled, and the guy looked at me. He was like, "Well, you should be proud. Why aren't you proud?" I was like, you know, it's 2017. It was 2017 at the time, and the 10th largest engineering firm in America has 25,000 employees. But the 10th largest Black has 200, not even 200, not even 1%. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I'm not happy being the 10th largest Black. So in that moment, I said, what do we need to do to become a national engineer? Because I can't name them. There's a lot of regional ones. There's some firms bigger than me who do what we do that are African American owned and operated, but none of them consider their national footprint. So we had this discussion and said we're going to be national. So we decided we're going to be national by 2025, and we brought together our strategic planning committee and our team, and we came up with a strategic plan, and we are actively working towards being a national firm in 2025.
And how are you since that first day 3 years ago?
What was the question?
How are you guys doing so far? How are you progressing?
We, from a size perspective, we've grown tremendously. We're winning some of the larger contracts and getting the firm's name out there, which all the national firms have name recognition. So we're growing our name recognition and our presence. But the biggest thing is that if you really want to grow into a national firm and have the name recognition, you got to do good work. And in my field, the only way to do good work is to hire the right people. Because we sell service, we sell brains, is what I say, right? So we've been very deliberate and intentional on bringing in the right people for it. I just recently had you may have seen it, I was on ABC 7 News here in Chicago, and we were talking about diversity and inclusion. It's the big buzzword now, right? Because of all the racial inequity that people are finally seeing. I mean, those of us who are Black, we're all kind of like, welcome to the dance. It's, this isn't anything new to us. We are finally figuring out that it's new, but it's not new to us, right? We've been experiencing this for years. But we're very intentional as a firm about bringing in and recruiting people of diverse ethnic backgrounds, sexes, sexual orientations, ages, backgrounds. I mean, we're very intentional about making sure that we are providing opportunities for people who may or may not have had the opportunity. I'm a perfect example. I got kicked out of college twice. I wasn't supposed to get a college degree, south side of Chicago. Um, so everything was stacked against me, and I had every reason and right to stop and to give up. And but somebody took a chance on me when my grades didn't deserve that I got a chance, right? They took a chance on me. So, we look at the character of people much more than we do, just the stats. We look at the stats too, but more than just the stats. And we use the character of people in order to give people chances that ordinarily would not. And the goal there is to, have a good, diverse, and inclusive culture here at Ardmore Roderick. And quite frankly, I think it's what's been critical to our success. We have over 60% of our firm is composed of people of diverse backgrounds. Now, obviously, diverse backgrounds is ethnic backgrounds, sexual backgrounds, um, sexual meaning man, woman, and then sexual orientation. So we make it a point. If you have two equally qualified individuals, we're going to go for the diverse. Um, Now, granted, some people feel as though in order to diversify, you have to lower your quality. We've not seen that at all. I actually, I don't think that's true at all. I think you can diversify and be inclusive as a culture and get better quality, not just maintain it. And like I said, in the article that I did earlier, we're a walking testament to that. So I think a large part of it is just intentionality. You got to be intentional about it.
And how do you do that? I think most of the world gets the idea of diversity. It's sort of like a fruit platter, right? You've got all the different fruits, all the different, represented in that platter. And that's a numbers game. You can do the percentages, right, within your company and watch how you're growing and improving and hiring diverse candidates. But how do you do the inclusion part? How do you actually make people feel included?
Yeah. So we have um, the unique situation that the president and CEO is African American, and I don't
That
run
would
from
be that would be you.
yeah, and I don't run from it. I don't hide it. I encourage the discussions on race, etc., and the hard discussions on race. But more importantly, I recognize that engineering and STEM and architecture and construction um, is traditionally not very sought after by people who look like me. So the people who are coming in from diverse backgrounds, um, we make sure, and granted, we do it for all of our employees, um, but I make sure that they have the training that they want to do to take their career to the next level. We make sure that we open it up to whether or not it's technical training or non-technical training. The biggest piece of especially in a technical organization, the worst thing that we do as engineers is we take our best engineer and we make them management.
Mhm.
If you're a really great engineer, you probably suck at management without some sort of management skills or training or something to kind of help you soften it. Because as engineers, we're very much we've been trying to identify people, and if they don't ask for it, we'll offer it. Hey, there's this seminar over here, or this class over there. I think you should consider taking some of these classes, etc. But even in our executive team, we're very diverse. Women, um, ethnic backgrounds, etc. I'm the youngest by 9 years on my executive team, uh, and it's been, I think our inclusion in that area has been helpful to us. Now that said, we still struggle. Our director level is very much not diverse and inclusive as I would like for it to be. So we are actively seeking and actively training young people to be able to step up into some of those leadership roles, so that we can, walk the walk. walk the talk. Walk the talk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's so much in what you just said, but one of the key points that I want to highlight is you're being very intentional about it. You know, that you're taking this on in a very direct way, which is 90% of the battle, I think.
I often say, a friend of mine was asking, how do we diversify when all of our applicants are, we only can. I said, no. So here's the thing: if you are fishing at a trout pond, you are going to catch trout. You can't fish. You can't set up shop and fish at a trout pond and be mad that there's no sea bass in here. I can't believe I can't get any salmon. All I'm catching is this trout just because you've set up shop to fish at a trout pond. So you should not expect anything else. In order to diversify, you have to be intentional about going to fish in other places. And that's an intentionality. That's a decision. That is a let's make this decision to go to this historically Black college and look for technically qualified people. Because if you're looking at, all of the engineering schools in the Midwest, the vast majority of them are not going to be of diverse backgrounds. And the few that are being sought after by every other firm that looks like you that's in the Midwest or in the Southeast or in the West Coast or whatever the case may be. So you have to look around in some different places and go and fish somewhere other than a trout pond. And you'll be surprised at what you find. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So if we were to go up a level or two here, out of your company and at a more societal level, what's your take on this moment in time? This not just the pandemic, but this time of a lot of attention being given to diversity, equity, inclusion. What's your take as a Black CEO who's in his mid 40s?
I'm not sure you want to record the rest of this, but I have very strong opinions about it. If I'm honest with you, I think a lot of it is lip service. And I say that because this isn't new. This isn't new. Police brutality, killing of African Americans, innocent people, it's not new. It's just being recorded for the first time. And it's making people who don't know about it very uncomfortable. Because even though you hear about these things, to see it happening over and over and over again with very little change, it starts to bother you. The problem is, as Black people in America, we've been seeing this over and over and over again for decades. It's just recently gotten to the point where others are now seeing it and are being uncomfortable with it. So I'm hoping that this time will allow us, and I think it's an interesting time because of the pandemic, everyone's at home and everyone can focus and they can't be busy with their lives and traveling and entertaining and doing things. For the first time, they're sitting down, they're watching this on the news with their kids because we're not in school, right? And now kids are asking questions, and now parents are having to answer questions on things that ordinarily they would be too busy or they're kind of gloss over. So I think the pandemic kind of set the stage for this to be front and center and for people who are not discriminated against to have to deal with it. So I think they both work hand in hand at this very interesting time. I wish I could tell you that I think things are gonna get better and great, but I think it's similar to diversity and inclusion. I think that it's a decision. It has to be intentional. And in order to make that decision and be intentional, you have to first recognize that there's a problem. I think there's a lot of people who don't look like me who haven't still figured out that this is a problem. I think there's a lot of people who have figured out there's a problem, and I'm hoping that those will be able to convince others, et cetera. But when you have conversations around, hey, we want you to stop killing us, and then they say, oh, well, black people kill black people all the time. The difference is Johnny, who kills Mike over here, goes to jail for the rest of his life within 30 days of the crime happening. And now you've completely demolished that family. Meanwhile, when officer so-and-so does it, he gets administrative leave and he may or may not lose his job. And it's on camera. Well, we got to figure out how to, look, this is all great. Well, we're going to get rid of Aunt Jemima. We didn't ask for that. We asked you to stop killing us. Oh, well, we're gonna give you more. We didn't ask for that. We asked you to stop killing us. Well, how about we're gonna give you more corporate board positions. That's great, but we didn't ask for that. We asked you to stop killing us, right? So obviously, no one's coming up with the basic understanding frankly, that Black Lives Matter, right? I'm not a huge fan of the organization, to be very honest with you, itself, but I understand and I believe fully in the slogan that Black Lives Matter, because for years, we haven't. I would venture to say for the vast majority of the history of this country, we haven't. We haven't. I had a town hall with my firm, all 200 people. I think 140 of them showed up. And I opened up the conversation by asking, how old were you the first time police pulled a gun on you? You should have saw the shock on people's faces. Pulled a gun on me? What are you talking about? I said, I was 17. About 20 other people answered. I'd say 18 of them were Black men. The fact that you could answer the question in the first place is a problem. It's a problem. I told them, as CEO of the firm, I get pulled over by the police, I fear for my life every single time. Because there's a good chance they don't know I'm a CEO. And even if they did, all they see is a Black man in a car that's potentially a threat, not realizing that I'm the least of your worries. I am the least of your worries, officer. But they don't see that. They see a Black man. And even though we have a lot of people, both in society, et cetera, that all say, well, I'm not a racist. I understand and believe that. But this country won't change until the non-racists turn into anti-racists. It's two different people. A non-racist is someone who says, hey, I don't subscribe to that. I don't do those things. I believe in this and that. That's great. But if you're in conversations with people, other people, where they start to say things and do things, et cetera, and you don't come in and say something about it, then you're just as much part of the problem. An anti-racist is then someone who's going to say, that's unacceptable. In a circle of people who all look alike, that don't look like me, someone to come in and say, I'm not going to let you talk like that. That's unacceptable. That's not going to be what we're going to do. And until those non-racists turn into anti-racists, I don't see anything changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some powerful thoughts. And I remember you sharing a story, Rashod, about driving through the back country of Florida. Why don't you finish the rest of that story?
That was the weekend that we had our retreat.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Marco Island, Florida, very well-to-do, ritzy area hotel. It was very nice. I had a friend in Miami, it was about 2 hours away. So I drive to go and see her. And for about an hour of this trip, now think about police and jurisdictions, et cetera. The fact that this cop could follow me for 60 miles in the first place is interesting, because I promise you, he was not in his jurisdiction 60 miles away. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But I got on this road. It was a very small road leading from in the backwoods of Florida. And police officer followed me for an hour. And within 10 minutes of me noticing, I got on the phone with my vice president, Frank, who I say my vice president, but I call him my friend. Right? I got on the phone with my friend. And I said, Frank, I need you to stay on the phone with me for the next hour. I need you to stay on the phone with me. Or I didn't say for the next hour. I said until this cop leaves. And he stayed on the phone with me for an hour because I was literally afraid that if I got pulled over on this little bitty little road in backwoods of Florida, that I might not make it back. I might not make it back. Um, the fact that I had to make a phone call because I was worried about my safety, and at the time, was that 2018? I think it's ridiculous. Coming from one of the most well-to-do areas in the country, um, it's ridiculous. And in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done anything differently. I needed the safety and comfort of knowing that if I did get pulled over, that I was going to have some sort of accountability, some sort of help, somebody to know where I was or what I was doing, et cetera. Scary.
Yeah, it's a powerful, powerful story. So you said before that it's a lot of lip service. I'm curious, if you're a bit understandably jaded or a bit pessimistic, right? What does give you hope about this moment in time?
Um, I I participated. Not very many people know this actually. I participated in a one of the rallies, one of the marches in Florida, actually, in Orlando, back in May. Right when all this was happening, it was happening right outside of my condo. And at first, I said, you know what? I just want to go downstairs and just I want to kind of feel the vibe. I want to see what it is. So I went downstairs and got on the street, and I was overwhelmed. And I said, you know what? I'm going to walk with some of these people and just talk. And what gave me hope was that I'd say 40% of the people, 2 out of every 5, were not Black people. Maybe even close to 50-50 were not Black people. I think the only way this is going to change is if people who are not African American are going to help to change it, both within themselves and within their circles and within their politics and within the country. It's the only way this is going to happen. Because as I said, if it's just a Black people issue, we've been fighting this for decades to a mostly deaf ear. So what gives me hope is that a lot of the people that were marching for racial justice and against racial injustice were not African American. And there were a lot of young people, and I'm hoping that we don't have to wait until, generations kind of roll over, so to speak, in order to kind of change this. But I'm hoping that, as that happens, some of those thoughts and ideas get lost with it. My father was born in 1942 in Mississippi. And some of the stories that he told me, I affectionately told him, I'm not sure that I'd be alive today if I was born in that era. Just because of who I am as a person, et cetera. And his wisdom, he said, you would have survived because you are that person, because I was able to go through that and make you the person that you are. Had you been born in the 40s, you wouldn't have been the strong person who can fight and have the courage to step up and stand up and say these things and do these things, et cetera. And I'm hoping that our generation are going to teach our kids to be even more courageous and to fight even harder for some of these things that we're seeing now. And they're going to look back at us and say, I can't believe you all let the police kill you like this. Like, there's no way I would do. Like, I'm hoping that this, that we continue to pass it on, and every generation gets a little bit stronger and a little bit more anti-racist.
Yeah, it becomes a given. It's not something that we have to ponder. It's just a part of the new reality for young people, which I think, from my limited perspective, I think is true. I think the world's just getting a lot flatter and a lot more diverse, and
Yeah,
kids just kind of accept it that it is that way, and that's a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could go on for another 2 hours, but I appreciate the time, Rashod. I've learned a lot from you over the last 15 years, I think, that we've
Yeah, it's been a
known each
while.
other. I love you, and thanks again for the time.
Thank you, Tom. I love you, brother.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Hey, wait, before you hang up, one more question I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
You said, I don't like Black Lives Matter, the organization. I was curious
Yeah.
what that means.
Um, the organization itself, I've often said that, for the first time in my lifetime, Black people have the microphone, right? We got the microphone. We got the microphone. There's a whole lot of people listening. The last time I think we really had the microphone was during the civil rights movement, right? We had the microphone. And when we had the microphone, we had some key leaders who made a collective ask. And the collective ask came from the top and from the bottom and everywhere in between. I think the Black Lives Matter organization has not figured out what its collective ask is. And as a result, we're not going to get any sort of results that we want to see because we don't have a collective ask. Number one. Number two is, I don't think, if you do a little history on the organization, I'm not sure that they never planned to be who they are. The organization itself. Again, the slogan means everything to me, right? Because I believe that Black Lives Matter. And whenever someone comes in and says, well, all lives matter, I say, you know what? If Black lives mattered, you wouldn't even be able to say all lives matter. But the fact that we have to say it means that clearly all lives don't. So to kind of switch the narrative on us, I think is irresponsible at best. We're not saying only Black Lives Matter. We're saying treat us like your own.
Yeah.
Because for the history of this country, we have not. So anyway, I just, I got issues with the org itself, but the slogan, I fully and wholeheartedly believe that Black lives do matter.
Yeah. What would be the collective ask that you would have it ask for?
So see, I'm a business person, Tom, and I think that the collective ask is a few different things. I think number one, it has to start with education, because education is what changes the economic and financial security of people. I, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, however, I have education that's rivaled 99% of the very wealthy in America. And that education, I think, has allowed me in certain areas to transcend my race. Other areas it has not, but in some areas it's allowed me to do it. I think so. You have to start with the educational system. You have to start with leveling that playing field, and then it goes into economic advantages. I think then it goes into economic empowerment in some of those communities, some of my communities that need it. I think a lot of the problems get solved on its own when people have just as much to lose as anyone else. Those people who are looting and rioting, I'm not out looting and rioting, and I'm just as angry as they are. You know why? Because I have something to lose. I have something to lose. Those people don't feel as though they have anything to lose. And until they get to the point in their lives or their careers or their finances or their family where they have something to lose, they don't have a reason. You give someone a family, you give someone a home, you give someone a place to stay, you give someone security, you give someone people to take care of, all of a sudden you have something to lose. And there's a good chance that you're probably not going to be out there doing some of those things.
Yeah. Or give them the opportunity for all those things, and let them step into it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating point. All right.